All right, welcome to another deep dive. This time, we're digging into something I think everybody's interested in at some point or another. How to make money.
It's a big topic.
Oh, absolutely. We're working from a really cool guide today, and our mission, to give you, the listener, the best of the best. Those takeaways that you can actually use, whether you just want to make a few extra bucks or you're thinking bigger, like financial freedom.
And this guide, it starts in a really smart place, I think, by getting you to think about your strengths.
Yeah, that part really stood out to me too. It's tempting to just jump into like, what can I do? But the guide is saying, hold on. Before you build that money-making house, you got to make sure the foundation is solid. And that starts with your skills, your interests, even the resources you've got.
Exactly. And what's really cool is sometimes things you think are just hobbies, they can actually be income streams. Like, let's say you're really into fitness, right? You've been hitting the gym forever.
Well, I'm more of a lift the remote control kind of person. But I see what you're saying.
Right. Even without being like a certified personal trainer or anything, you could share what you know online, build a following, maybe even create workout plans and sell those.
So you're saying my uncanny ability to find the best snacks, that could be monetized. I'm kidding, maybe. But seriously, I see the value in this strengths-first approach. It's not just chasing the latest trend, it's about finding where you already have an advantage.
Totally. And once you've got that figured out, the guide lays out like the landscape of income. It breaks it down into three main types. Active income, which is the classic work equals pay. Most people start there. But it's not just your 9 to 5.
Right. So freelancing would fall under this too, right? Like even if I'm not clocking in at an office, if I'm getting paid directly for the hours I put in, that's active.
Exactly. That's the key with active income. The more time you put in, the more you can potentially earn. Now, the next type. This is what a lot of people dream of, passive income. This is where you set things up so that the money keeps coming in even when you're asleep.
The make money in your pajamas fantasy. I've heard of that.
Right. Rental properties, that's the classic example. But the guide goes beyond that. Dividends from stocks, royalties from creative work. These are all passive because the money keeps flowing without you constantly hustling.
Okay, so it's like planting a money tree. You put in the work up front, but then it keeps giving you fruit even when you're not actively tending to it.
You got it. Of course, there's a learning curve. It takes work to get there, but the potential's huge.
Okay, plant money tree is going on my to-do list. But hold on, there was one more type of income the guide talked about. Portfolio income. Now, this is where we get into investments, right? I gotta admit, this is the area I'm the least comfortable with.
A lot of people feel that way. They think, like Wall Street, complicated trading strategies. But the guide emphasizes that anyone can learn the basics of investing, right? Whether it's stocks, bonds, even just dipping your toes into crypto. The key is understanding how to make your money work for you over time.
So it's not just about saving money, it's about putting it to work so it can grow. I see why they call it portfolio income, like you're building this collection of assets that hopefully increase in value.
Precisely. And each of these types of income, they all play a role in your overall financial picture. Like active income can provide that stability while you're working on building those passive income streams and growing your investments.
Okay, so we've got the groundwork laid with our strengths, and we understand the different ways money can flow into our lives. Now let's get to the fun part, the actual opportunities to make money.
This is where the guide gets really exciting. It goes beyond just listing ideas. It helps you imagine how your strengths can fit into different areas. Let's start with freelancing, which has just exploded in recent years.
Oh, yeah. Upwork, Fiverr, those platforms are household names now. But what I found interesting was how diverse freelancing actually is. Like, you don't have to be a coder or a designer if you're a great writer, freelance writer, super organized, virtual assistant. There's a niche for almost anything you can think of.
Exactly. It's about finding a problem that people are willing to pay to have solved and positioning yourself as the solution.
And then, of course, there's online selling. Everyone knows about Amazon, but the guide also talks about Etsy for handmade goods or even creating and selling digital products like ebooks or online courses.
The internet has made it so much easier to reach people all over the world with what you're offering. And it's often way easier to get started than a traditional business, with a physical storefront.
Yeah, it's like a whole digital marketplace just waiting to be explored. And speaking of things that have exploded in popularity, The guide doesn't shy away from cryptocurrency either, which I know can feel like a whole other language to some people.
Crypto definitely gets a lot of attention, but the guide encourages a cautious approach, Do your research, understand the risks, maybe start small. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme, but it is an interesting area with potential for growth.
Well, I admit, I need to do some crypto homework. But I love that the guide encourages us to stay curious, to explore different things, even if they seem a little intimidating at first.
Absolutely. And one avenue that I think a lot of people kind of romanticize is content creation. You see YouTubers, podcasters making a living doing what they love. It can seem like the dream.
Right, right. But the guide doesn't sugarcoat it either, does it? Like, it's not just posting funny videos and watching the money roll in. There's a lot of work that goes into building an audience and figuring out how to make money from your content.
Oh, absolutely. You need to be consistent, creative, and willing to learn and adapt as you go. But if you're passionate about what you're creating, the rewards could be huge.
So it's not just about picking any random topic and hoping it goes viral. It's about finding that sweet spot where your passions, your skills, and what people actually want all come together.
You got it. And speaking of finding the right fit, the guide highlights remote work, which has been a game changer for so many people.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely a trend that's here to stay. More and more companies, especially in fields like IT and marketing, are embracing this whole remote work thing.
It opens up so many possibilities, doesn't it? Location independence, flexible schedules. You can even access jobs all over the world.
I know people who've ditched their commutes and are working from, like, beachside cafes or mountain cabins. Okay, maybe that's not everyone's reality, but the point is, remote work gives you options that just weren't there before.
And it's not just limited to traditional jobs either. You can build entire online businesses that are completely location independent.
I'm starting to feel like the possibilities are endless. But with so many options, it's easy to get overwhelmed, right? Like, where do you even begin?
That's where goal setting comes in.
Yeah.
And this is something I'm really excited to dig into because it's so crucial. A lot of people have this vague desire to make more money, but...
Right, but they don't know where to start.
Exactly. And the guide really emphasizes the importance of setting specific, measurable goals. Like, it's not enough to just dream about financial freedom. You need a roadmap to actually get there.
It's like the difference between saying, I want to get in shape, and having a detailed workout plan with specific targets and milestones. One is a wish, the other's a strategy.
Exactly. So let's say your goal is to make an extra $500 a month. That might sound like a lot. But what if you break it down into smaller weekly goals, like $125 a week? Suddenly it feels more manageable, right?
Instead of staring up at a mountain, you're focused on taking one step at a time. And that feeling of making progress, that can be super motivating, especially when you hit those inevitable roadblocks.
And you will hit roadblocks. The guide is very honest about that. It encourages you to see setbacks not as failures, but as opportunities to learn, to adjust your approach. Everyone stumbles. It's how you get back up that matters.
I love that perspective. It's so easy to get discouraged when things don't go exactly according to plan. But if you can reframe those setbacks as learning experiences, it takes away the sting of failure and keeps you moving forward.
Exactly. And speaking of moving forward, one of the themes that runs through this entire guide is the importance of lifelong learning. In today's world, the skills that are hot today might be obsolete tomorrow.
The only constant is change, right? So how do we stay ahead of the curve? How do we make sure our earning potential keeps growing?
The guide recommends embracing a mindset of continuous learning. It could be taking online courses, going to workshops, reading blogs in your field, or even just connecting with people and exchanging ideas.
It's like you're building a muscle, right?
Right.
And the more you exercise that muscle, the stronger it gets. And the stronger it gets, the better equipped you are to handle new challenges and grab new opportunities when they come up.
Great analogy. And it really highlights how making money, it's not just about tactics or strategies. It's about cultivating a mindset of growth and adaptability.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about identifying our strengths, understanding different income streams, and the importance of setting clear goals and always learning new things. As we head into the next part of our deep dive, what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
I think the biggest takeaway is this. Making money isn't some big mystery reserved for a select few. It's a skill. Anyone can develop it with the right mindset, the effort, and the strategies.
It's about taking ownership of your financial future and realizing that you do have the power to create the life you want.
And the great thing is, there's no one right path. There are so many ways to achieve financial success, And that journey itself can be incredibly rewarding.
Now, that's something worth getting excited about. So let's take a quick pause, and we'll come back ready to dive into the actual steps you can take to turn these insights into reality.
All right, we're back. And I'm ready to get into those actionable steps you were talking about.
Me too. We've laid a lot of groundwork, but I know our listeners are eager to hear, how to actually put these insights to work, right? The guide talks a lot about taking action and adapting along the way, which I think is so important.
Oh, yeah. It's easy to fall into that analysis paralysis trap.
Totally. We can research and plan all day long, but at some point, you got to roll up your sleeves and jump in.
Exactly. And the guide actually recommends starting small, which I think is brilliant advice, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed.
It's like dipping your toes in the water before you do a cannonball, right?
Yeah.
So let's say someone's interested in freelancing, but they're not really sure where to start. What's a good first step, like a baby step, they could take?
Well, instead of quitting their job and going all in on freelancing, they could try offering their skills on a platform like Fiverr,
Mm-hmm.
Pick one specific service, write a really good description for it, and just see what happens.
Okay, so it's a low-risk way to test the waters, see if there's actually demand for what you're offering. And even if you don't land a client right away, you're still gaining experience, you're figuring out how to market yourself, and you're honing your skills.
Exactly. And you could apply that same principle to other areas too. Like if you're interested in online courses, you don't have to launch a whole curriculum right out of the gate. Create a short, free course, maybe on YouTube or Skillshare, get some feedback, refine your teaching style, build a little following. Then you can think about investing more time and money.
It's about building momentum, proving the concept before you go all in, right? And speaking of things that take time and effort, the guide also talks about scaling up, once you have a solid income stream going. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this because scaling up can often mean more responsibility, more stress, potentially.
Yeah, for sure. Scaling up doesn't always have to mean bigger and bigger, right? It's about finding that sweet spot between growth and sustainability. And the guide actually breaks it down into 3 areas: automation, outsourcing, and diversifying.
Okay, let's break those down. Starting with automation, I have to admit, I get a little intimidated by all the tech stuff, all the software out there. It's like there's an app for everything these days.
It can be overwhelming, for sure.
Right.
But the whole point of automation is to make your life easier, not harder, right?
Right.
It's like having a virtual assistant who's working 24/7, doing all those tedious tasks so you can focus on what you're good at.
Okay, I like that way of thinking about it. So, say I'm a freelance writer. I'm drowning in all these administrative tasks, scheduling social media posts, sending invoices, managing my email inbox. Are there tools that can help me automate some of that?
Oh, tons. For scheduling social media, Buffer or Hootsuite are popular. Invoices and expenses. You can check out FreshBooks or Wave Accounting. And for email, there are tools like SaneBox or Unroll.me that can help you ping that inbox and figure out what actually needs your attention.
So instead of spending hours every week on that stuff, I could automate most of it and free up that time to actually write. I like the sound of that.
Right. It's all about working smarter, not harder.
Okay.
And as your income grows, as your workload increases, that's where outsourcing can become really valuable.
Yeah, outsourcing. I know a lot of people, especially solopreneurs, they're hesitant to outsource. They think it's too expensive or they want to control everything themselves. What would you say to someone who's on the fence about it?
I think it's a matter of shifting your mindset. Instead of thinking, I have to do everything myself, it's about building a team, finding talented people who can help you reach your goals faster. You don't have to go it alone.
So you're recognizing your own strength, but also acknowledging that maybe someone else is better suited for certain tasks. It's like having this team of specialists all working together. So what are some tasks that people commonly outsource, and how do you even find the right people to do them?
It depends on the business, of course. But some common ones are things like graphic design, web development, social media management, writing content, even administrative tasks like bookkeeping or customer service.
Wow, that's a pretty wide range. So where do you find these talented people? How do you go about actually finding them?
There are platforms specifically for that, like Upwork, Fiverr, Guru. You can also network, talk to other entrepreneurs and get referrals.
So it's about building relationships, tapping into your network, as well as checking out online platforms. It sounds like finding the right people is just as important as knowing which tasks to outsource in the first place.
100%. You want to make sure you're working with people who get your vision, who you can trust to do a good job.
It's like building a little ecosystem for your business, with everyone playing a specific role.
Okay, so we've talked about automation and outsourcing. What about diversifying? Why is that so important when you're thinking about scaling up?
Diversifying your income streams, it's like having multiple pillars supporting your financial house. If one weakens, the others can still hold it up. It's about spreading the risk, creating more stability. So instead of relying on one source of income, you're creating multiple streams that, ideally, all work together to support your goals.
Right.
Like having a backup plan, or even better, multiple backup plans.
Exactly. Let's say you're a freelance writer. You're making good money from client work. That's awesome. But what if a big client suddenly cuts back? Or there's a slow month for new projects? Having other income streams, like an ebook you sell passively or an online course, can help cushion the blow.
It's like having a safety net, right?
Yeah.
It makes me realize how important it is to think beyond just one way of making money, to explore different avenues that all work together.
Absolutely. And diversifying doesn't have to be complicated either. You can start small, just like with everything else. Maybe you reinvest some of your freelance income into a diversified portfolio of stocks or bonds. Or maybe you look into affiliate marketing opportunities related to your niche.
It's like planting those money trees we were talking about earlier. But instead of one tree, you're creating a whole orchard. All right, so we've covered a lot in this deep dive, from figuring out your strengths and understanding income streams to taking action, adapting, and scaling up. As we head into the final part of our conversation, what's the main message you want our listeners to walk away with?
The most important thing, making money is a journey. It's not a destination. There will be highs and lows, challenges, wins. The key is to embrace the process, learn from everything, and never stop growing.
That's so empowering. It's not about reaching some arbitrary level of wealth. It's about constantly evolving, learning new things, and building a life that feels good to you.
Exactly. And the more you learn, the more you realize how much there is to learn. It's a journey that can be super fulfilling, both financially and personally.
I'm feeling inspired. All right, let's wrap up this deep dive with some final thoughts and maybe a little something to get our listeners thinking. All right, so it's time for that final thought, the one we hope will stick with you. Are you ready for it?
Yeah, hit me. I always like these.
Okay, so we've talked about all these different ways to make money, and it's easy to get kind of lost in the how-to, the tactics, but I think the real question, the fundamental question is, what's one skill or interest you have right now that you could turn into an income stream?
Wow. That's a good one. It really gets to the heart of things, aligning what you love with, your earning potential. And it doesn't have to be something you're already an expert at. It could be something you're just curious about, something you want to learn more about.
Yeah, totally. Like maybe you love to bake. You've always dreamed of opening a bakery. But the first step isn't necessarily quitting your job and renting a space, right? Maybe it's starting a blog, sharing your recipes, building an online following.
Great example. Starting small, testing the waters. Or maybe you're really into personal finance. You're always the one your friends come to for budgeting advice. Could you create a course, a workshop? Share that knowledge with more people.
I love that. It's about looking at your everyday skills, your interests, and seeing them in a new way, a money-making way. And even if you don't have a specific skill in mind right now, just asking yourself that question is powerful. It opens up possibilities.
Totally. It shifts your mindset from, I don't know how to make money, to, what do I have that I can use? It's about recognizing your own value.
So for our listeners who are ready to take that next step, once they've identified that one skill or interest, what should they do? What's the action step they can take right now?
Write it down. Seriously. Get it out of your head and onto paper. That makes it real. And once it's there, in front of you, you can start brainstorming. Research those income streams, look at different platforms you could use, and set some small, achievable goals.
Love it. It's not about writing a big business plan or anything. Just take that first step. Who knows where it could lead? You might discover a hidden talent. You might build a successful business. Or, hey, maybe you just earn a little extra cash on the side.
Right. And the cool thing is, the journey unfolds as you go. You might start with one idea and end up somewhere totally different. That's okay. Be open to possibilities. Learn as you go. Embrace the adventure.
That's what I love about these deep dives. They spark that sense of curiosity and possibility. And hopefully our listeners walk away feeling empowered, ready to take action, ready to create the financial future they want.
That's the goal. We've given you the tools, the insights. Now it's up to you. We're excited to see what you do.
So on that note, we'll leave you with this. What's that one skill, that one interest that's waiting to be unlocked? Write it down, explore, take that first step. You might surprise yourself.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep exploring.